Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, CardHoarder.com, Ultrasleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, and this week, my one co-host, MTG Nerd Girl.
Just me today. Sorry, guys.
This is a very lo-fi episode, as you can tell. We literally have no idea right now where Reuben is. We trust that he's fine. This isn't the first time he's gone MIA. There have been naps. There have been LARPs. There have been things that have been done. And you're like, Reuben, we're doing this thing we've done for 7 years. And
he's like, oh, today was Thursday. Oops.
It's like, I was tired, you know? So instead of having no show, we'd rather have a show with us. It's cool. We talk about things. I don't have cool overlays. I apologize.
We don't have a joke.
We have no joke. I mean, the joke is right here. Okay. If you missed our free show, subscribers to this channel get access to our NSFW version early, and we kick it off with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat. That's still happening. But subscribe first to get 2 chances to win and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight. Thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every single day. And this week, it's a bit of a slow news week, all right? It ain't the most exciting I've ever seen, but you know, you work with what you got. And the first thing that they shared in the weekly MTG was that they are returning to the game night. This was a set of 5 decks, essentially commander decks, I want to say, but I think they're like 60 cards, so like Brawl decks or something.
Kind of.
And this is where you can basically buy this box, sit down with 4 of your friends, and you have a whole, night's worth of multiplayer Magic, there with you. I have been warned that 5-player games are kind of, you want more 4-player games, but that's just what I hear. I don't play a lot of multiplayer Magic.
I like the idea that you have multiple decks. So what I did was for like the pre-cons, what I used to do is I would buy the 5 set. But I would just play heads up, but we could switch decks and have some variety and not always slam the same decks against each other. Right. So I feel like in a, 2 through 4 player format, this would be really fun to get to play different decks and have 1 or 2 decks be excluded each time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being able to mix and match, and you'll make the decks a little bit more unique as you go. Here are there are 5 unique cards. I would tell you exactly what they do. They're just not that exciting. These cards are not meant to be format running all-stars. They're fine. They do some decently neat stuff. But I don't think any of them are going to see a significant amount of play anywhere else. You are free to Google and look those up if you want to, or zoom in on the video. That works too. But the fact that they're bringing back game night seems like it worked. Okay. It's not a local game store product.
Yeah, I think that this is a cool product for people who like to teach people how to play Magic. Mm-hmm. This is a neat thing where you can bring a box, sleeve up the 5 decks, keep them in the box that they come in, and bring that to any event, any nerd thing that you want to go to, and be able to teach your friends how to play Magic or play quick games without a ton of pressure. Like having to head somewhere and be like, do you have a Pioneer deck or whatever is tough to do sometimes when you're not in the correct company. But you can bring this. It's sort of like bringing a board game to a party, right? It's
very board gamey. That to me is who they're sort of targeting there. They're saying, hey, this is like, I can't remember, $40 or $50 price point. You know what I mean? You get some Magic cards, you get to play Magic. Like the decks are all similar power level. Nothing's going to blow out anything else. And it should be sweet. Now, in terms of buying something that might blow out other things, Wizards is bringing back the Pioneer Challenger decks. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they do these last year? Did they do Challenger decks at all? Was it standard?
I think they did a Challenger deck when I first started the show, which was almost a year ago now. I think it's like, I just had my 7th or 8th month, I think. Mm-hmm. So I remember us talking about Challenger decks. I don't think they were for Pioneer though. Yeah. I think they had done Pioneer before, and then I think they did Challenger Standard, I want to say, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, they did some in 2021. Pharmacist Judge says, and I think they're standard. As I recall, the 2020, when the world ended, that's also when the Pioneer decks came out. And so, because the world ended, Pioneer was sort of set and prepped to take off in the stores. and then the stores couldn't have events. And so it just came to an absolute screeching halt rather. I know that at Cool Stuff, we busted a lot of those decks for singles because no one was buying the decks. That's just kind of how it is.
The nice thing about the price point on these decks is oftentimes you can almost bust them for singles because they're pretty close to the price point.
Absolutely.
So you're not usually spending a ton extra for them compiling the deck for you.
Yeah. And, and there's always that kind of push and pull of how many rares, how much of the deck are they actually giving you and how much do you have to kind of go above and beyond? How many of those Phoenixes are they putting in the Phoenix deck? I don't know. How many Skyclave apparitions? I'm not sure, stuff like that. Are they going to give you a Planeswalker, a Chandra in the red-green Stompy deck, for example, the 4-mana Planeswalker with all the abilities? We shall see.
Yeah, they're usually pretty close to what you would expect in the tier, but I think they usually only have one of the mythic. Mm-hmm. That said, aren't these decks usually like $40 or $50?
Yeah, no, they're 40, 50
And then the Chandra itself is at least 20.
Right. So you normally get pretty good value out of them. And sometimes they're a little bit more expensive based on how, sort of giving Wizards was. But the most famous, the infamous example is that the Mardu Vehicles deck, one of the first ones they did. And again, when they do it for the first time, they go nuts, had half of it in rares. And that was 30 rares. And I don't think they've ever gotten close to that before. That was wild.
Do you know what the price of the 30? I mean, that isn't as important if it's a bunch of chaff, but do you have any idea what the price point was compared to what they were charging for MSRP?
As I recall, I want to say it was $40. But it had 4 Heart of Kieran and some of the big money rares that you would need. All the lands were in there, which was huge.
Okay.
So it was pretty dope for the value. And I still got it somewhere. It's in a box somewhere, which is cool. So, Alchemy Horizons, Baldur's Gate. Y'all, listen. I love Magic. I love the stupid game. I love this game. I have done nothing but love this game since 1996. All right. Small gap in there, but from 2005 forward, we're in. Reading these cards makes me exhausted. It makes me tired. I know that a lot of them do similar things when they have the specialized mechanic, and I bet the specialized mechanic plays a million times better than it takes you to read the 700 words that are on these cards. But it's a lot. I'll still play it. I'm not going to say I'm going to play it. I'm not going to say I'm not in for a new limited format, right? We'll try new limited formats. But I don't know. This whole thing is just kind of baffling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to make for a reasonably fun limited format as well. They kind of, switch some things up. I don't necessarily when we had the Alchemy draft before, I drafted it once or twice, and I decided it actually made it more bomb heavy.
It did.
And I tend to like my formats lower powered, so I just went back to straight Capenna,
right.
And I was happier there. So this seems interesting. I'm excited to get to play with these cards because I don't get to play much with paper Magic anymore. And I was actually pretty hyped about the Baldur's Gate theme. Mm-hmm. So it'll be nice to get to experience them. But yeah, I'm not super excited. I just don't like Alchemy very much.
Well, guess who passed out and woke up?
Oh, boy. I told you.
Well, I tell you, man, we made it to 11:10. I thought we'd make it to 11:25. Ladies and gentlemen. We're about to get ourselves a Reuben Bressler showing up.
Mid-show. All right, I'm going to turn my camera off.
We need to wait till he gets here. But yeah. We're glad he could make it. Aren't we glad he could make it? And before we even got out of first pick, but you wouldn't know it because I don't have any overlays on. So.
It's fine.
That's what, hey, sometimes you got to do something weird. Things change.
They will be happy that we have a show. We should joke about docking his pay by 1/8, right? Mm-hmm. Half of a show.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Bruh, what's going on, man? What's happening here? I'm guessing he's gathering himself because he has yet to enter the waiting room or whatever. But well, it's cool. I can go back to complaining about Alchemy Horizons. All right, so this set's weird.
Yeah.
I wanted to all right. So what you were saying just there was that the Alchemy Streets of New Capenna stuff made the format wildly bomb heavy. And that's exactly the way I found it. I was like, these cards are ridiculous. Like it shot it into almost cube draft territory at times. We're like,
Yeah, the problem is that there's like one alchemy card mixed in with all the regular cards, which means when someone plays an alchemy card, then it just like outpaces everything you've played thus far in the game, which is a little awkward. Right. But I feel like this will be different because all of these were actually kind of made and drafted together. And I don't think Capenna was play tested with alchemy cards mixed in, if that makes sense.
I agree with that. Oh, yeah.
Whereas this format for Arena was kind of cultivated to be its own inclusive format.
Yeah, I think it's kind of neat. There's some kind of cool stuff going on here. I feel like if your card has a scroll bar, that you might have gone too far. I think, you know what I mean? In terms of like where you
I agree with that.
I think like, because Kaleem Jin Emperor has a scroll bar. And again, they could have just put that flying and Ward 2 up on the same line. You wouldn't have a scroll bar, but now we have a scroll bar. Reuben is waiting to get in. He says, oh my goodness. All right, so turn the camera off. Reuben is in. Let's go. Let's go. We are showing everyone how the sausage is made this evening. Hey, buddy. Hey, bro.
Hey.
You feeling okay?
I feel fine.
Okay.
I have no excuse.
We've been doing this every Thursday, 7 years.
Well, we've been doing it every Thursday since time immemorial.
Yes.
And yet, here I am. I have no excuse. I set an alarm.
Did you now?
I did. Sure did. For turns out there's a difference between AM and PM. And I don't know the difference between that.
Every Thursday since we moved the show to Thursdays. That's right. We have been doing it every Thursday now for, I think, 2-ish something years. But for 5, it was Wednesday, and a couple, it was Thursday. And
so are we
we're going.
The show in normal order?
Okay, oh, yeah.
Great. I'm here. I'm ready to. I'm
glad you made it during the first pick, buddy.
Ooh, okay.
Because I said it was going to be 11:25. At which point we get the what's going on? I was tired. There was a nap involved. And there was
a nap involved.
There was a nap involved. It's cool. No, we got it. Well,
I still have no excuse.
Right. We went over the first 2 things here on the list, and I was complaining about Alchemy Horizons because that's just what I do now is yell at clouds. Reuben, how do you feel about the game night and the Pioneer Challenger decks at this point?
I mean, I can't really be forced to care about Pioneer at this point.
Reuben care.
Well, I really wish I cared about Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I don't. There's not enough support in place for there to be challenger decks for this format at this point.
You sure? I mean, this is like they're bringing it back for the Pro Tour and the regional PTQs and all that stuff.
Great. Let's see that, in my opinion. Sure. Like let's have some live events. Let's have some support for the format, then the challenger decks. It feels like this is putting the cart before the horse a little bit to me.
Well, I would definitely say that's what they tried to do with the timing the last time in early 2020 when they released the first Pioneer Challenger decks after they announced the format like the October before. And then everything just hit the skids and it was awkward. So,
sure.
But like for what it's worth, I'm hearing some seriously great numbers coming out of Florida in terms of their regional PTQ numbers and people being signed up. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of competitors. And that's awesome. And this stuff should hopefully hasten it.
Okay.
We had a first Pioneer event for the DGen Gaming. Our open this month is also Pioneer.
All right. Well, in that case, I stand corrected.
Well, and there's nothing. Go ahead.
I just don't personally like. Maybe this is just me, but I feel like Pioneer was created and intended to be a Pro Tour format, and then the Pro Tour has not existed for 2 years, for 4 years. So I don't know why or I don't know why exactly I don't care, but I don't necessarily. I don't think that the challenger decks move the needle for me at all. Now, game night's very cool. I think game night is aiming for a different audience. It's trying to do something different.
Right.
It that always feels relevant, right? That always feels like, oh, we're going for a slightly more casual, slightly more gregarious crowd. That doesn't rely on competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I think having Pioneer for competitive Magic is really good. It's a lower price point for people to get into. It's going to be more aligned with Historic and what we can play on Arena very shortly. Wizards has been quoted saying when Pioneer gets onto Arena. So we actually have some hope there that we'll be able to play Arena on Pioneer, which I think is super important. It's a lot easier to run tournaments. It's easier for new players, not just the price point. I think Pioneer is fantastic. And it doesn't move the needle for you whether you're excited about this product, but I think competitive Magic and what format it is not maybe quite as much your thing as things like EDH and game night and the things that get Reuben very excited.
Sure.
I mean, certainly not anymore.
I mean, this is nature healing, right? This is how we get back to where we have some amount of, competitive Magic support. And here's part of the decks that they can sell at your local game store to get you started in the format. Modern has taken over Legacy as the big expensive format because at least they can reprint stuff and it's still too expensive. And Pioneer is trying to kind of cover that gap. And let me tell y'all, one day Pioneer is going to get just as wild and as expensive as Modern is. And then y'all going to be complaining about that too.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, they're just going to make another new format every
10 years or so.
10 years. Yeah.
Something like that. Because again, as the time drags on, there's only so many cards they can reprint in any given moment unless they just start going hog wild on the master sets. And as we saw, they tried to go hog wild on the master sets and do 2 a year. Remember that? That was a no-go. That was not cool. Like there is a limit that you can set there that you have to respect. Either way, so Alchemy Horizons is coming. We're going to be in the preview event next week. So that's going to be cool. I have no info on it, and neither does Nerd Girl. But the full spoiler is up, and we'll get to play this set. And that's a lot of words and stuff. I mean, cool. I just hope there's some cool decks out of it. That's all I care about. I like playing with cool new decks, interesting new ideas, and there are definitely a bunch of cards in here that could inspire a bunch of those.
I'll be honest, I do the limited set reviews for cool stuff, and I think that's already too many words in a normal set. This is a lot more than that.
When cards have like 700 words because there's 6 different versions of them.
They're mostly, they change like 2 words. Come on.
2 words. Some of them are very, very similar, and some of them are not similar much at all. But again, I get it. Again, like I said, they probably play great. That's the thing. They just read not good. I'm sure they play awesome.
Now, will there be, this is a set release. There's limited.
There's limited.
Yeah. There is limited.
And they're selling $50 like bundles on Arena that you can get packs or you can get draft entries and sealed entries of it.
Great. So
just like a normal set release.
This is not available for standard, but is this legal in regular Alchemy play?
Yes. It's legal in Alchemy and Historic.
Okay.
So it's going to be, so Alchemy standard is going to start to get just really weird.
Like, really different. Because
it's already pretty different, but like it's going to get really different.
Yeah, this is much more different than what we've seen previously, where it's like the same decks were still very relevant, but now we're getting an entire set that it's actually like locked off from standard because we have none of these Boulder Gate cards in standard.
Right. And the fact that there's the 2 cards with the same art, but do something totally different. I mean, it is wild how blasphemous that was and how they used to make fun of cards having the same art with different abilities in unsets. That was the joke in Unsanctioned. That was the joke. And then they did it. And you're like, why? Man, there are some unbreakable rules that have been broken over and over regarding Magic, and it's been kind of amazing. All right, that said, let's move on here to gather the townsfolk. First up is the new Zodiac Land secret lair.
And it's awesome.
And it's grabbing a peach.
This makes up for
Yeah.
all of the terribleness that Evan complains about every single month when they come out with a new Zodiac thing.
It's not good. I want it to be good.
This crab is amazing.
This
If they
crab
would
is
sell me
amazing.
10, I would buy this.
I'm good. I'm all about the crab.
He's like the crab overlord. He's amazing.
Irrespective of the idea of the Zodiac Land astrology lands, this is
This is
platonically the best land I've ever seen. Like,
And
this
yes,
is
it could have been
incredible.
the island and all this other stuff, but like,
It's almost better that it isn't. I think it's funny. But if
Yeah.
you think about, 12 Zodiacs, there's only 5 things. You got to spread out the love. Not everything can be an island, but this is fantastic.
yeah, definitely not everything can be an
How many?
island.
Comes with it 4 or 5.
I think it's 6 question mark 5. You get 5 of those.
At least you're getting more than 1. I feel like now we're getting into the territory where you can buy 2 and be reasonable to have like your set of lands. But yeah, this is
It is unfortunate that if I had a crab commander deck with, Cherix, the Raging Isle or something, I could not use. I mean, I would still use these and just say, listen, these are my islands. They have crabs on them. Like, play along.
They're supposed to be that way. Stop it.
You could totally play like that in a lot of Magic. I do, like when we do like a team draft or something, we just don't bring basic lands. We just use whatever crap we don't put into our hand, or we just either draw on them or just use a color land you're not using. Color card.
Yep. I mean, gosh, man, you were talking about back in the day when we didn't have enough basic lands, and so my swamps are mountains and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That happened back in the day, y'all. And then you get confused. You're like, wait, did I have to have that forest for a plains, or was that supposed to be the swamp this time? All right, that said, as we moved out of the Guide of the Townsfolk, we need to do this first. We want to thank our sponsor, cardhoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. And another story here is referring to Graham Stark. We spoke a little bit about him in the pre-show of the top 10, but wanted to cover it here in the main show. He has been diagnosed with cancer, as I understand it. And that is obviously absolutely horrible. And we send him all the love and the best that we can from the show to himself.
You had, I think, in one of the last week's pre-show, you had a little bit more information on that. You said that like mostly going to be okay, right? It was the general consensus I felt.
Right. He's going to be okay. It's not like...
Yeah, that is optimistic.
Optimistic, obviously, yes.
Every cancer is dangerous. Every cancer comes with it a challenge and comes with it a risk.
Mm-hmm.
So while the odds are good based on the type of cancer that he has, they are still odds.
I was certainly not trying to downplay it. I just wanted,
of course,
right. We want to walk that line of obviously we want to be very supportive, but we don't want to like just make up stuff and sell this, this magical, everything's rainbows and puppies.
Of course.
So it's both, and it sucks. And Graham's amazing, and our fingers are all crossed, and let's hope the doctors are good. The Dominaria United release is coming. WPN shared a bunch of dates that you would need to know, so you can get started with that stuff for their stores, whether they're premium or not. And as I was mentioning in the pre-show, from all indications that I have seen, Wizards is very excited about Dominaria United. And I mean, like, providing the stores with a lot of product, a lot more than usual. And that generally means that, they either know it's going to be very exciting, or they're going to be people who are going to get there for the nostalgia part of it. Maybe they have some really cool new mechanic things that they're introducing. Maybe Richard Garfield's able to come back in some form or fashion. You never know. But their 30th anniversary, Dominaria, biggest plane, most loved, new jumpstart set as well. Like, it's going to be pretty hardcore.
I mean, they have reason to be excited, right? Like, there's no... So when you've got the Commander Legends thing, right? Like, the example here is we had a bite of an apple and it was delicious, and then the second bite of the apple wasn't good with Commander Legends. Mm-hmm. With Dominaria...
Oh man, don't do that. Got like, don't you make Dominaria United bad.
No,
my God.
But we've got like a dozen bites of good apples, including maybe the best tasting apple we've ever had with the most recent Dominaria, right?
It's like the best Magic set ever made.
There's so much more provenance behind a standard expansion released in the fall, taking place in the home plane of Magic to back it up. So it feels like this one is much more safe of a bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Dominaria was just unreal, start to finish.
Now, I think that a scenario where you might be looking at, Innistrad is the greatest draft format of all time to some people. Is this Crimson Vow, right? People love Ravnica. Is the draft format Dragon's Maze, right? Like there is always another side of the coin.
Always a chance. So we'll see how far they go. So for Gerry Thompson news, which is always like super positive and awesome, that's just how he rolls. He is doing some auctions that are benefiting some abortion care clinics and organizations. And we're talking like graded stuff, graded Lotus, like thousands and thousands of dollars being, raised for these causes, which are awesome. And of course, Gerry's just good guy, Gerry, making his impact as well as he can based on the world that we now live in.
Yeah, I some really good ones here. The abortion fund stuff, which is very near and dear to a lot of the community's heart and the whole world, mostly the U.S. right now. So that's awesome. And also a ton of other stuff going around. If you guys are into other charity things too, definitely check out Thompson. But it's still Pride Month, so if that's not quite your speed, you guys can also do that. If you can't bid on any of these insanely expensive items, which is, still good. You guys can still make a huge difference. There's links in this tweet to all of the different things that he's supporting. You guys can go there and just donate $5. And then again, Trevor Project for Pride Month is another great place to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Reuben.
I think that it is very good knowledge of how the human brain works to sort of ride the wave, right? Gerry could have had this auction 6 months ago for the same causes, but it would not nearly have had the impact, I feel like, or had the reach. It's catching the wave at the right point. Right. It sucks, obviously. It's horrendously bad. But the fact that Gerry historically has made the best of a bad situation in this way is always nice.
Yeah. So we are not a politics podcast, but we are a podcast that will point out when Gerry Thompson is being awesome. All right. This next story is just hilarious, quite frankly. Look, man, they made a whole show called Nobody Likes Chris. I made a whole show. This is Nobody Likes Extended. Wizards of the Coast. Nobody likes Brawl. I'm sorry. The person who won the Brawl event at Command Fest Frankfurt won it because they were the only person who signed up to play. We were talking legendary creature and 59 basics. You got the trophy. And this apparently happened again.
Mm-hmm. This is guy.
Same guy again.
It's very funny. It is a funny head.
God.
I saw the tweet and I was losing it and I didn't actually know why. So this is the first time hearing about why that is. And that's pretty funny.
I get what they were trying to do. You know what I mean? I can imagine they sat down and they said, we need a standard commander because this is just, the power levels are crazy and it's so hard to, manage and blah, blah, blah. This ain't it, boys. Y'all had to add 100 card historic Brawl for a reason to Arena because that's what we like to play. That's what the people like to play. And this is funny. I mean, it's a joke at this point, and I hate that, but that's where we're at. That said, we move on here to our desperate Ravings. That is check on and to do that, we're going to check out our Ultrasleeves. Support the show by using the code MagicMics at checkout for 5% off anything in that store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mics crew at ultrasleeves.com/magicmics. Check it out right there. Tell them we sent you. They're great. I don't exactly know how to run over this next story, and I'm not sure there's a great way to do it, quite frankly. I'm not sure how much either of you guys have read up on this story in terms of the employee response, of Hasbro's response, of the thing of the stuff, and I don't think we're really going to be able to cover it here the right way.
Right. No, I think that
I'll talk about
so I have
Wizard
read
Squares.
I have exactly. I have read the initial sort of corporate response, and then the response to that corporate response. If you're listening to this podcast at a time that isn't, within a time frame where you know what we're talking about, Roe versus Wade was recently overturned by the Supreme Court, and a official statement from Wizards of the Coast came out that had some tone deafness to it. And in the wake of that, a sort of nameless Wizards account making commentary on what the Wizards employees within Wizards had to say about this comment popped up. I think that kind of covers what the story is.
I would note that the communication was internal. So Wizards didn't make this as a public statement. And as this began, it was a little awkward because they kind of just said that they were angry at what was there, but they wouldn't post what was in it. And that also got kind of weird. I also understand that there's a lot of paranoia when you work at a large corporation like Wizards. There's a lot of eyeballs, there's a lot of watching, and there's a lot of watermarks. And if you're trying to share stuff, they're definitely going to, look out for that. And you can lose your job over something as simple as sharing that type of email. But ultimately, they weren't happy with the response and they decided to do something on their own. I'm not sure how successful that was. Again, this is hard to kind of document, honestly. But it's a thing.
Yeah. When I was looking into they made the new Twitter account, right, for Wizards. And from what I was reading was a lot of the negative side of it was coming down from Hasbro. I think Wizards is just kind of following suit with what Hasbro put out. And then to boot, my question was that is possibly the announcement that they made lackluster because Wizards of the Coast itself is here in Washington State, where we have more protection against what's currently going on in a lot of the country. So I'm wondering if it's our employees are here, so we don't really need to speak on this. And people are taking that silence as maybe being not against it or not standing up for their employees.
Right. And a lot of that, everyone needs to be respectful of each other's views and type stuff and not saying hey, that type of healthcare is healthcare and important. And if you're going to be reactionary and call people, baby killer stuff, you're not used to nuance in your life. And I'm sorry for that.
But again, it's not
how it's going to work.
Not the venue. This show's not the venue for that discussion. Right. However, I assume there's a link in the show notes.
There are links in the show notes that you can go check out that stuff. There's a story on dicebreaker.com. Dicebreaker.com also, interestingly, has become more of a player in the journalism surrounding Magic and competitive play and stuff like that. It
is really hard to not let Magic Mics turn into TMZ sometimes.
It's true.
So I really want to hedge away from political stuff outside of the pre-show where we can let it all hang loose.
All right, so let's talk about delayed Wizard Squares. Wizards is making very expensive Wizard Squares, as they do. This time it's going to have Warhammer 40,000 stuff on it, and those got pushed to October 7th, which happens to be the exact same day as Unfinity. So now your dollars will be pulled in the Unfinity direction and Warhammer direction. I didn't really mean to do that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The point is, I was just okay, it's fine. The collector decks are still insanely, stupidly rare. Listen to me what I'm telling you. If you want these at all, at anything looking at reasonable, pre-order them now. Talk to your LGS. Find them online where you want them. I know they sound expensive now, but I'm telling you, those things are very hard to get. They're sending very few to stores, very few to premium stores, for God's sake. And you don't want to miss that boat if you really care about Warhammer. Yeah. Last thing real quick here. And Reuben, I'm not sure if you're able to write a joke in between the time you.
I'm working on it.
Okay,
I'm going.
He's got it. Reuben's doing this. We're gonna feel a little bit of time.
I liked our plan. We were all going to say our
plan?
best. Everybody says their best dad joke.
Oh, okay. We can do that too.
All right.
I mean, if Evan said on it, I thought I had a good one.
I mean, I'm not set on anything. I just thought, well, Reuben's here. He can write a joke now.
I like cheesy dad jokes.
I like cheesy dad.
Sure.
But the Wizards did change vintage and standard leagues on Magic Online to be a flatter payout, which would ideally incentivize people to not be terrible and not try to grind out queues and concede to one another and all this other garbage that was going on because gamers are going to game. And I hate that, but
yeah,
you got to be careful with those systems you set up because if there is a flaw, it will be exploited.
Yeah, I no further comment.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to this story.
Not a lot of meat on the bone on that one.
Yeah, I totally get it. There's not a lot of nuance. Again, that's a French word, right? To keep going there. But all right, so let's move on here to something fun. This splash damage. There were playtest cards on Pawn Stars. Okay, this was adorable, and it was as uncomfortable as you can imagine. Particularly as they closed out the segment, which featured them trying to actually play Magic. And it was, it's rough. Now, note in our wonderful Discord, they note that it was likely staged. It's a reality television program. They're all staged. But the guy who sort of came in as the expert, he collects the playtest cards. He knows who owned the collection of those playtest cards and reports the entire thing is staged and was sold at auction for far more than what the television displayed, to the surprise of hopefully no one.
I mean, I didn't watch the episode. Did the Pawn Stars buy the playtest cards?
No.
Sounds like no. That's fine.
Right.
So if you go on Pawn Stars, I mean, I assume we've all seen an episode of Pawn Stars at this point where if you go in, there's a discussion and maybe they buy it and maybe they don't. It's a pawn shop. Like, also Magic players know what cards are worth. Like, this one could not possibly have been a surprise.
Yeah,
to anyone participating. And the way that you get on Pawn Stars is you write in and you say what cool thing you have, and it's all partially staged. So
right. I mean, they didn't know who to call to come look at it and all that other stuff. So
I think most of it is staged. I think that they actually had. I saw an article. This was a couple of years back now, but like something got leaked where they proved that like the entire show is just fake. Like the stuff people bring in or whatever is just not
stuff
actually sold.
Like that. And and I think a little bit of a crackdown came down at that point. This was also where Storage Wars. Remember that show where they would buy storage lockers and they would find a Black Lotus or whatever in it, and it's like, wow, I found these Magic cards. It's really crazy how I found the most expensive one that exists. Just so happens to be in this, crappy storage locker with other bunch of garbage. But, ultimately, for those who don't want to have to go and watch the thing, the guys these are real. They're worth about $400. He had like 20 something of them. So they're worth about 10 grand or so. They offer him 5. He says no. They offer him 7,500. He says no. And that was the end of it. And then
that's a pawn shop. I don't see what the problem is. This is just also you're trying to get better than 75% on your buy of Magic cards. Like, I have bad news concerning buyers, if that's your problem.
If anything, they gave him a pretty good rate.
That's right.
Based on the expected value. But it was interesting. But yeah, so that was Pawn Stars having Magic cards on it. Doesn't happen every day. Let's go ahead.
So I do have a joke written.
All right, let's do the joke.
So we should also do the dad joke.
We can definitely do the dad joke. It does not take very long. Let's move on here. Turn the corner to the finisher. And let's start with just your favorite dad joke. I think my favorite one, and my kids can tell you that this is true. If there is ever a point in time in which you describe one of your limbs as being asleep, I will remind you that it will be up all night. Oh, damn, my foot's asleep. Well, now it's going to be up all night.
Amazing.
There's your dad joke. That's real dad joke stuff right there. My children suffer.
Yeah.
Did you want to go or
Nerd Girl? You want to go ahead next?
Sure.
What's your favorite dad joke?
My favorite one is why does a chicken coop have 2 doors?
Why?
Because if it had 4 doors, it would be a chicken sedan.
This girl. Reuben?
It's very good. I was trying to think of like classic jokes that I used to love when I was younger. And one that came to mind was a piece of rope walks into a bar. And the bartender says, "No, we don't serve your kind here." And the piece of rope leaves and is sad and, is like, "Well, I gotta do something." So it ties itself all up and makes itself all, different looking, and it pulls apart some of the strands, and it walks back into the bar and says, "I'll have a drink." And it says, "Hey, aren't you that piece of rope that just walked in here?" And he said, "Nope, I'm afraid not."
Yep. And for an actual joke, this is also one of my favorites. This is the classic. There's a bear in the woods and they're talking to a rabbit and they say, "Hey, Mr. Rabbit, do you have a problem with poop sticking to your fur?" And the rabbit goes, "No, why?" And so the bear picks him up and wipes his butt with him.
Right.
And there's your joke with a punchline.
That's so mean.
Really bad. That's a really bad one.
A classic. Well, today was a unique experience. And the joke, as a result, is a bit of a slapdash endeavor. So tell me, if you accidentally fall asleep, what news would you hope to wake up to when you finally opened your eyes, Reuben?
Well, Evan, who would possibly do this? This is incredibly unprofessional. Well, should I somehow be the one who accidentally slept through the entire pre-show and the first 10 minutes of the real show, which again, doesn't sound like me at all, I'd want to wake up to the news that the Orioles won the World Series, that bacon no longer causes weight gain, and that Earthcraft is unbanned in Legacy.
Justice for Earthcraft.
Justice for Earthcraft.
Nerd Girl?
Sleep? Never heard of her. But if I powered down my battery and rebooted on the late side, I'd want to wake up to the news that the mascot of Magic Mike's is My Best Boy, starring the next set Double Ham Stars 2022.
That's right. Well, look, sleep is for the weak and childless. I haven't slept since the 80s, but once I do go hibernate out in the Great Smokies behind my house, I want to wake up to my dream news that I can move back to Knoxville. Wait, am I in Knoxville? This is incredible. Dreams really do come true.
Did you have to click your heels 2 times?
Oh, yes, many times. And also some boots, get that redneck flavor in there. Exactly. But
if you want to see paradise.
That ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Certainly one of the most unique live episodes of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Reuben.
I mean,
thanks for finally showing up, Reuben.
Yeah. I don't even know why you're thanking me.
Because it's in the script.
It's in the script is why we're thanking me. Yeah, that's okay. Fair.
Oh, we love you, buddy. Now, we move into our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com and Ultrasleeves, my co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl and Reuben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, and everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, Twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.